Fun. Well, hey there, Dave Melenda here, Positive Polarity Podcast. Hope things are going awesome for you this week. I have a question that I've yet to find somebody to answer in the negative. So, this is kind of a rhetorical question, but it's a great question for us to unpack this week. So, the question is, are you interested in building a more profitable business without adding more to your plate? And again, I've never found anybody that said, "Oh my gosh, I have so much profit, I don't even know what to do with it all." So I'm like, I got to figure out because I think everyone wants the profit, but I think it's the how do we do it without adding more to your plate thing that's really going to be the key. So I found who asked that question, and I'm honored to be hanging out with Marcia Riner. How are you today?
Dave, great. Thanks for having me on. It's funny that your early part of this was like, oh, nobody, nobody's going to talk negatively about increasing profitability. So I thought that was
Right.
hilarious.
Absolutely. So you're a business growth strategist, and the company is Infinite Profit. So fill
Mhm.
us in on what that is and what the profit booster method is that you have coined and done a great job with.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks for asking. So, my company, Infinite Profit, has been around in one way, shape, or form since 2016. And I help growth-minded business owners that are already in momentum to increase revenue and drive growth with the ultimate goal of being able to have a business that they can sell sometime in the future. Because it creates this win-win environment of a great company now that you like and enjoy and makes you money and does all the stuff that you got in business for. And
Sure.
then it gives you an opportunity to potentially sell it later on
Hmm.
to junior, a partner, the competition, to a buyer. I mean, the opportunities just open up when you
Sure.
build a really good business. So
Well,
that's,
that's
yeah, that's
awesome.
what I do.
Well, that's cool. And I think that it's interesting that you mentioned growth minded. I mean, do you run into people, Marcia, that aren't growth minded, that own a company that they're just kind of happy with
Yeah.
their, profits where they are and they're not looking to advance?
Yeah, there's a huge sector of the economy, business economy right now of people in my age bracket that are
20
have
to
been in
40, right?
You're so kind. No, up a little higher. That have been in business for a long time and are kind of cruising through business, right? They've got a comfortable business. They don't need to add anything. They don't want to do anything. They're kind of, they're just hanging out.
Sure.
And that's a terrible place to be in when you're not thinking about, well, gee, how do I meet inflation, keep up with the competition? And just worry about innovation that my
Yeah.
customers are already experiencing and wanting in their buying journey. Think
Yeah.
Amazon, right? Everybody wants it yesterday and put on their doorstep, right? We as business owners have to match that buying habits in our
Yeah.
company, and it's so different than what it was just a couple of years ago. So if you're not thinking growth constantly, you're actually losing traction.
Yeah, and that's a great place to start because if you are listening and growth is not something that you're accustomed to, I mean, we talk about it all the time on this show, so you must have probably just heard your first episode today if you're not hearing about growth. And so I think that you're either growing, you're either moving forward or you're moving backwards. I don't see a
Agreed.
lot of neutral, stagnant, status quo type companies having success. Is that kind of where you're at too? It's you're either moving forward or you're moving backwards,
Exactly. Just because your competition in the economy and everything, cost of goods sold and all of that is moving forward, whether you like it or not. And when
right?
we talk about growth, I'm not talking about market domination and, exponential growth of, 10x and all that kind of stuff. I'm talking incremental, little growth, a
Yeah,
a 3 to 5% increase each year or each quarter over quarter. That's manageable, realistic growth that I'm
right.
talking about.
Yeah. Awesome. And you can grow by increasing sales, you can grow by decreasing expenses. There's a variety of ways that you can grow, which we'll talk into today. I want to
Exactly.
kind of move back a little bit though, Marcia, because we have a lot of people listening right now around the world that are in corporate, whatever, America for us, whatever country that you're listening from. They want to be like us, where they own their own business. Some for great reasons. Some think that we sit on the beach all day and just, play our, just hang out on our laptop and, work an hour and then we're done for the day.
Such a
Tell
life.
me, you were in corporate America and then you transitioned to owning your own company. So, can you kind of share your journey on what that looked like just for people so that they can kind of get a glimpse into what that looked like for you?
Well, thanks. Yeah, that's an interesting story. I kind of went in and out of corporate life because you know, the people around me didn't like the entrepreneurial spirit. And I'm such a super creative. I had a lot of problems inside of corporate America because I'm both brained, so I'm very analytical and reviewing numbers and strategies and building plans. And then I'm very creative where I see things and visionary and I want to implement new ideas and innovation. So that got me in a lot of trouble. I was always getting my hand smacked. Marcia, no, you can't do that. Take that down. Oh, just follow our rules. And I'm like, but I can make them better. So I figured like I felt like I was living I came out of the financial services world, and I
Okay.
felt like I lived in a little box that had duct tape all around it with little air hole pins on it,
Sure,
and I
sure,
felt trapped and suppressed. And so in 2016, life had changed, in many different areas in my life. And I thought, you know what? I just don't want to do that anymore. And
sure,
I have to say, being a business owner is not all glamorous and fun and games. I mean, in the early ages, you're really pulling an 80-hour week. And you're
yeah,
sitting across the table from your loved ones and you're thinking business and they're telling you about their life. Um, it's not easy. It's not impossible, but if you have that kind of mindset that you think you can do something better, improve a way, then this is the space that we do it in.
sure,
But having that corporate experience gives you skills and processes and ways that you can bring with you. If you just jump into the entrepreneurial world right out of college, you're probably going to suffer a little bit, or
sure.
you're
Yeah.
doing something weird and you jump in. It might be a little bit of a harder thing, but I think coming from the corporate space, it's actually helpful and you see what not to do in some instances and
Sure.
what processes were actually successful in corporate that you can import into your small company and still manage.
Sure. Well, and I think you bring up a great point for people that are still in corporate. It's a great environment to learn in. It's
Hmm.
a great environment to be able to really soak in all that's going on. And like for you, you were told don't do this and don't do that. I mean, it seems
Constantly.
like it was it was kind of like they were kind of either challenging you to do it. Did you feel like you were being forced into it? Or was it just like, did you know early on, let me ask it this way, did you know early on you were going to be an entrepreneur owning
I
your own
think
business
so.
at
I
some
think
point?
so. When I look back at the challenges that I faced and the things that I did, whether it was in the banking community or the financial services space or in the mortgage industry, everything I had, every business I was in involved money, which was actually kind of funny. But when I looked at those things and I kept going, wow, I would self-educate and do the courses on my own, and oh wow, and my ex-husband who was corporate is like, well, why are you spending your time and energy on that? And I'm like, because that's what's drawing me.
Yeah.
That's what's attracting me. And so, yeah, I think it just gets inside of us and when you know.
Well, and I think there's a hidden gem there because if we're self-aware of what's going on around us, the more self-aware, you knew that there was something drawing you. There's a
Mm.
lot of people, Marcia, that are just like, they're just not aware. They're just dense. They wake up, they do their 50 weeks of, going to work, and then their 2 weeks of vacation. And then all they do on that 2 weeks is, complain about the 50 weeks they got to work. And, it's just,
But
it's
they're comfortable with a paycheck.
right.
When you're an entrepreneur, you don't always get a paycheck. You
Oh,
get
wait,
pay
don't
in
ruin it
different
for
ways.
everybody, Marcia. Come on.
You get pay in different ways, but
Yeah,
you
like
don't
sitting
get
out
that
on the beach.
consistent revenue that you know that every 2 weeks you're getting a paycheck deposited into your bank account and,
Yep.
benefits and healthcare and things like that.
Right.
But again, there's rewards on the other side that really draw you in if you're one of us, if you're in
Well,
the
and I
club.
think, yeah, no, that's a great point, really true for somebody to be able to take account for themselves. If you're the type of person that needs a constant paycheck, you don't like risk, you're conflict averse, there's certain things that, maybe keep it as a side hustle, find a partner, or do some self-improvement to where you can work through those things. But I
Mm,
think it's
exactly.
I think it's unhealthy for people to just go from, especially if you
Leap.
have, a lot of stuff that you got to pay for. And there was a guy on our show a long time ago that was like 6 days, he got married 6 days later, quit his job, and then came home and told his wife, I quit my job. I have no clue what I'm doing. And it was just like, whoa, it worked for him. But,
Talk
she
about
freaked.
stress.
Yeah, exactly. She
I'm
freaked.
sure his new wife kind of freaked out.
Right, exactly. So it's like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine doing that. And we always say there's no right or wrong way to do it. The way
Correct.
that Marcia did it for herself, the way that I did it for myself is just for us. So please don't take our way as the right way. It's
Nah,
just
but
one
I
way.
think planning is really like if you're going to take that leap, do some research, figure out what
Yeah,
it is, just like in your business, right? I'm a planner at heart, and that's that other side of the brain that
sure.
haunts me at times that says I need to know what's going to happen, what's going to go on, what are my risks, where am I
Yeah,
going, who's my client. When you put all that in there, then it lowers the risk and you're thinking clearly rather than taking that emotional leap of your previous guest.
yeah.
And it's often, not always, but often a little more successful. And so when you look at your business that way, whether you're already in it or you've been in it for 10 years or you're just starting it, or like maybe you're planning for the next year or planning for the
Yep.
next quarter, the word is plan.
Yeah. Well, and you love that word because you actually have a podcast called
I do.
Profit with a Plan.
Yeah.
So, and you said you're 7 years in. Holy cow,
I
that's awesome.
know. Where did that time fly? And my goodness, please do not go and look at the first 30 episodes because they were horrific. I have a girlfriend that tells me she watched one and she goes, "Who the heck is that?" Because I was like 30 takes in trying to get this, glamorous,
Yeah.
great
Oh my
sounding
gosh.
thing. Now, like you, I just kind of run it, ask some really
Right?
good questions, and it's like so
Yep.
much better.
No kidding. That's awesome. That's so cool. Well, and again, for people listening, there's no right or wrong way to
Correct.
consider you starting your business. For a lot of people, you have this kind of deep down inside that it's going to happen. I think a really wise word that Marcia used is planning and
Mhm.
plan accordingly. I think again, there are people that just stop and they decide what they're going to do one day and they just do it. And again, it works for some, it doesn't work for others. Find what works for you and really move forward with it. So, in your world, though, once you realized that you didn't want to work in corporate, were you drawn to something in particular to be able to sell or to be able to service? What was kind of like you knew what you didn't want. How did you get to know what it is that you did want?
Well, like anything, it evolves, right? When I first came
Okay.
out of the financial practice, a lot of my clients would come to me as financial planning and say their biggest asset was their business and they were going to sell it. And both my parents were business owners, and I would ask them, "Hey, so what's the value of your company?" And they gave me some, oh. crazy Shark Tank EBITDA number, right?
Yeah.
Earnings before taxes and interest, and then I'm like, great, how are we going to ensure that that value will be there when it's time that you need it? And they
Yeah.
never had a clear-cut answer. So my first evolution of my company, and it has evolved many times, was to do business planning for companies. So how do we make sure that that value will be there? And over the years, it's just evolved. And now I actually um, ran into a problem consistently over the last couple of years where I would come up with this great plan and strategy and tactics and things that we would do for my clients.
Hmm.
But what I found out is they were not executing.
Mm.
So they spent the time, dreamed it through, we got it all put into place, and they wouldn't pull the trigger,
Mm.
or they couldn't pull it all the way. So
Sure.
my company actually evolved about a year and a half ago into an agency model where I come in and say, well, now we've got the plan. Would you like some help implementing it?
Oh,
And
okay.
we help them to now take the steps that they didn't know how to do, didn't have the payroll or the people on play to actually do that. So I do a lot of marketing and growth strategies and work with my clients that actually involve the execution, which has been fantastic. So what you start with is not always what you end with. And I'm sure when I decide to take the step out of this business, it's probably going to evolve again. So be
Wow.
nimble, agile.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is you have certain personalities that are very hard to, they're not open to change. Grandpa did
Change
it
is a
this way.
nasty
Great
word.
great grandpa did it this way. I'm going to do it this way. My dad did it this way type of thing. Do you run into a lot of those types of people that they're not really open to that change word?
Not so much in the founder owner space, but
Okay.
often in the team that works underneath her,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So the owner says, "Oh, let's go, let's take that." And then we try and launch it with the team, and the team sabotages because they're used to doing their daily tasks. They're not creative or open to change. And so
Sure.
that's why I said change is a dirty word for a lot of people.
Yep.
So, again, kind of like that growth mentality of small incremental changes,
Yep.
right? To improve profitability. Well, the small incremental changes inside of the business will allow your team to adjust and manage and move forward with it. And actually, if you engage them a little in the process or in the actual improvement of the process, then they buy in more to the change because they feel like they've given value and are impacting the situation and they're more open to the change. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a
Oh,
little
that's
little
crazy.
trick we do.
Well, I like the small incremental changes because when we do the coaching piece or when we speak, a lot of times people come to me after and they think they have to do these just monster, massive changes in their life, you know? I mean, you just take it personally. If you want to lose whatever weight you want to lose, 10 pounds, 20 pounds, whatever, you don't just walk in and lose 20 pounds. There's this, this small incremental thing. Do you find that people are like anxious or impatient when you talk about small incremental changes, or do they kind of adopt and enjoy the fact that they are some small changes?
I think they often don't realize it as much. Again, we're in that environment of I want it yesterday and delivered on my doorstep. So in especially in the marketing space or the new client acquisition or even stepping into a new market. So there's many areas that you can impact in your business to produce the growth that you're looking for.
Sure.
So a lot of business owners want it quickly, and change takes time
Yeah.
because not only are you changing, but your message is changing, your marketing changing, maybe your sales process is changing, the people have to change. And it's this domino effect that actually, if you remember that line as a kid, you knock one over and, a couple seconds or minutes later, the last one falls over. You have to wait for it to be to hit the last domino, which is your
Sure.
ideal customer.
Yeah,
And that could take a little time to actually have it impact. So, but I think that if you're making little changes along the way, it's not so shocking to everybody, including
sure.
your end customer,
Yeah.
that they evolve and welcome it better.
Wow, that's awesome. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to unpack this profit booster framework.
Yes.
And because I'm excited to figure out how to add profit without adding more to my plate. So we're going to dive right into that after this. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm honored to be hanging out with Marcia Riner, business growth strategist at Infinite Profit. And I have a just a kind of an analogy on this small course correction thing. You know, I live in Wisconsin and I have a house in San Diego, so I fly back and forth on occasion. And it's interesting because, like, if you leave Wisconsin and the pilot says to himself, we're just going to do a 2-degree course correction. No one's going to know. There no it's the plane doesn't shake. Nobody even knows, and before you know it, you're landing in LAX, and
Or San
LAX
Francisco.
or San Francisco, right? But LAX to San Diego is like a painful 2.5 hour drive. It sounds like it'd be
With
fun. It is. It's
ridiculous
like
traffic.
12 lanes each way. It's just a mess. But it was a small incremental change up front that made this massive change at the end. So I just want to encourage people, don't get lost in small incremental changes
Yes.
because you really need those in order to have that massive change at the end. So I just don't want people to tune out or try to refute it. And again, if you want large change, great. But the vast majority of your team is going to struggle with it. Your customer is going to struggle with it. So, beware before
And
you
it's
jump
probably
into it.
really expensive to do mass
Right?
changes like that versus
Yep.
little ones that aren't quite as expensive.
Exactly. So as we move into the profit piece, I want to know how in the world can I be more profitable without adding more to my plate? Because you laid
Mm.
that out. So I want you to tell the world right now a couple things that we can implement, a couple things we can consider. Where do we start when we want to add more profit, but we don't want to add more to our plate?
The $1 million question, right?
Right?
That's actually perfect because most people want the profit, but they haven't taken the time to step back and look at what they're doing, right? And so there's many, as we mentioned earlier, there's many different levers that we can pull that can produce more profit, whether it's finding more revenue generating opportunities or cutting expenses, right? So
Hmm.
it's a very simple math problem. More revenue, less expenses equals more profit, right? I would
Yep.
coin that, but it's too incredibly
Somebody already
basic.
did, I think.
I think so too, right? It's too incredibly basic. But when we're
Yep.
looking at the things that we can do on the revenue generating side, right? You want to look at, well, first of all, am I really going after my ideal client, or am I trying to shoot the pellet gun at the wall and see what spaghetti sticks, right?
Mhm. Sure.
Having that kind of niche place is actually beneficial, as scary as it feels to business owners to niche down rather than to go big. So finding that ideal client with that ideal problem that you solve that they're really truly in pain enough to pay for to get it fixed, and they want it fixed now, right? So that really dials it in for a lot of people. And oftentimes we gloss over that step and kind of go, well, I do X and I do it for everybody. I'm a dentist, and if you have teeth, I can fix you.
Yeah.
Wrong, right? Being that generalist doesn't help out. So sometimes taking a step back and looking at the niche opportunities that you can really dial in increases revenue for you. Um, Looking at a market, a new expansion market might be another opportunity for you. So if you think about that you provide this one service for your ideal customer or one product or one widget, service and product, please understand they're very synonymous with each other, right? Even though one is a thing and the other is a service, right? But
Yep.
if you do one thing for your customer, think about what is the next logical thing, service or product, that they're going to look for immediately before you or after you, or even in some cases, both.
Sure.
Because
Okay.
now your client, your customer, is not paying you for one item, they're paying you for two items or three items, and then they become very sticky. Think about the banking industry. You come in and you get a bank account. Well, they want to sell you a credit card. Well, they
Hmm.
want to sell you a car loan. They want to get
Hmm.
you a mortgage, not just a mortgage. They want to give you a home equity line. They want your
Sure.
investment money. You become very sticky and attached. It becomes difficult for you to change banks because
Hmm.
you have multi relationships.
Sure.
When you look at your own business and try that, that's a perfect revenue generator,
Hmm.
revenue booster, profit booster.
Sure.
Yeah.
So how do you I feel like there is a kind of a conflict between niching down, but yet trying to market expansion. Because it
Yeah.
feels like, hey, I want to be the best, like to your example, I want to be the best credit card company, but then I want to also do loans, auto loans, and all that other stuff. How do you kind of bridge that gap?
Yeah, great question. So, when you're talking about having a niche but multiple products, if you're thinking that ideal customer and their problems are still the niche offer or the niche that you're looking at, and what you're doing is you're satisfying the next logical uh, problem or service that they need. You're not a um,
Hmm.
you're not a nail salon that's now doing hair coloring, right? It's
Okay.
a nail salon that maybe wants to do different styles of nails or they want to repair things or, I mean it's thinking in that you're not going to be a plumber and then necessarily add HVAC. You're
Sure.
going
Okay.
to be a plumber that is specializes in toilet or
Yeah.
emergency services, but then can do a bathroom remodel.
Okay. Gotcha.
So it's
That makes sense.
complementary services that are logical for that ideal customer. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, no, it does. That
Okay,
makes
good,
complete sense. I mean,
good.
people always told me if you can sell the just left-handed blue-eyed plumbers, you that's niching down. And it's like, it's interesting because we do a ton of work with disc, and my disc assessment says that I get bored easy. So like when I want to niche down, I'm like, yeah, I don't, yeah, that just doesn't like even for me, it's like, ugh. I mean, I try
Uh-huh.
to do it on occasion, but it just doesn't seem to really work. So I like the expansion market. I like
Yeah.
the ideal client. And I was going to ask about the ideal client because I feel like most business owners, entrepreneurs really don't invest as much time understanding their client as they need to. And when I
Or the
wrote my book,
evolution of their client. Like, where has the
yeah,
client gone now from where they were just 2 years ago?
right. Yeah, that makes so much sense. So my question is like, do you help people listening to be able to identify that ideal client? Because
Yes.
again, there's plenty of people that they really are bad at that. Like you said, hey, if you
They don't
got
have
teeth,
time.
you're a client of mine. So,
Yeah, they don't have
how does that
time.
work?
They're often chasing customers and putting out fires. So they're not taking the time to really dig into their business. Yes, I have a fantastic um, strategy or model that I use when I onboard a client to really dig deep into that. And, thankful that my boyfriend, Chad, GPT, helps me a lot with really getting the information. In previous years, I would say
Sure.
I would have to pull it out of my client and it was arduous. It
Yeah.
was challenging, difficult
Sure.
because they didn't know themselves. Now, with a little bit of prompting and direction from the client, I can actually create this avatar that is so vivid to them that they can go, oh yeah, on that point, no, no, not on that point, and we can really start to dial it in a way that we didn't have research capabilities
Yeah.
before without asking, hiring a research company, going out and surveying previous customers, asking them these questions that they never really answered honestly, and we
Sure.
couldn't get the data we needed. So now with AI and the help of that and the skill prompting, I can get really dialed in on their customer that the
Okay.
client goes, wow, yeah, you're spot on. Actually, that's Susie Q that I worked with, for the
Sure.
last 3 years.
Yeah.
And then we can dial in and be aware of their thinking habits, their buying habits, their challenges, their joy points, right? Where are they shopping? How are they shopping? Are they the ones that stress over it for a long time, or are they the ones that just look, buy, do their research, and they're gone, right?
Yeah.
These are all things that we need to know when we're trying to attract, to sell to, and to retain our
Yeah.
customers. We
Yeah.
absolutely need to know that.
Wow, that's great. And I think that's where a big missed opportunity is because again, we think about a customer and we think about maybe male or female or age if we're going to do a
Demographics. Yeah.
demographic type thing, right? And we forget a lot of what you said. So are you
Psychographics.
using you mentioned AI, so and so I wanted to ask the question about that because in the past, like you said, you'd have to poll your customer, you'd have to find the questions, you'd have to find somebody to gather this. I mean, it was like you there were independent companies and what they did was they just did that type of thing for you
Market
and
research.
then handed you a 30-page report and then most
And
people
it was
probably
stale when they
were
gave it to you.
yeah, it was already outdated by the time it came through. So so for the average business owner, entrepreneur listening right now, if they want to get more into understanding where their ideal client is, what their habits are, how does AI work in that? How do you use it for that scenario?
Well, I have a pretty detailed process that I go through, and it's asking the right questions, and I've trained GPTs to help me solve the problems that I'm looking for. So it does take a little architect work
Okay,
inside of
sure.
GPT,
Okay,
whether you're using Claude or Chat or some of the other ones out there. But really, truly, to if you know your typical ideal customer and you can prompt the chat to tell me about this person. And then you have to look back and say, oh, does that make sense? Does that come in? Does that fit? What information do I really truly need to know?
yeah.
And I even have a section where I go in and I find their buying beliefs. What are they thinking?
Mm,
When it comes to my product and services, or what are they thinking when it comes to the problems that they're facing?
sure.
And having that skill and ability, I think, has really helped me move quicker and faster and get my clients the results that they're looking for,
Okay,
rather than trying to quiz them to provide it to me. But yeah,
sure.
could I say it was easy? No, because I've been dating Chad for a while now. So he's learned my methodology and the outcome that I'm looking for. But
Okay,
anybody can put that information in and say, here, describe my client. Here's my website, describe my client. If you're like anything, Dave, garbage in is going to be
yeah,
garbage out.
sure. Yeah,
So we all know that, try
yeah,
and make sure that what you're putting into chat to train them
sure. Okay.
is accurate.
So we have two types of people listening right now. We have the DIY, like they're
Sure.
already, on chatgpt.com trying to figure that out. Again, more power to them. I use that a lot as a late to just kind of get some more ideas about things, which has been great. But there are plenty of people too here, in this situation, that are like I just want you to help me with that. And so is that where you come in and are able to help them with that? To if somebody really wanted to do a deep dive on their ideal client, are you that person for them?
Absolutely. Both, as a matter of fact. So I'm on social media a lot. I'm always sharing ideas. I publish a couple of newsletters. My podcast is always ideas, and I'm very strategic. Uh, uh, Ideas, tactics, strategies, things that you can put in action, not just thought processes. So just following me, the DIYers can get enough information to go, ooh, that's good. I'm going to try that, right?
Yeah,
So I can help both. But yeah, for the client that, oftentimes they're knee deep in their business and chin deep in the stress of the company. They want it and they want it yesterday. So why not work with someone like yourself, Dave, or someone like
yeah,
me that can help them um, pay for speed, right? That's
sure.
normally what you're doing with a consultant or coach is you're paying for that speed to get my ideas and direction to be able to get you there faster.
Sure. And I think a lot of it too, Marcia, is the accountability piece because, I have clients that I meet every week, and I have one guy that's like, I wouldn't be anywhere close to where I am if I wasn't meeting with you every week. And he said, it's not,
Exactly.
and this was like not a blow to my ego as much as he thought it was. He's like, it's not like you're teaching me anything. It's that you're holding me accountable. So, like, when you're driving to our office, I'm making my calls that I
That I
wouldn't have
should have done
normally
four
made.
days ago, right?
Right. I'm like, well, hey, it's better than nothing, but let's work
Yeah.
on making them, at a good time.
Well, and I
Um,
think I think that's it. They're so busy again, chasing
yeah,
customers and putting out fires that they don't do the things that they need to increase the revenue or reduce the expenses so that they can be more profitable.
yeah. Well, and I kind of liken it into fishing. I'm not a fisherman. I don't enjoy it, but I have four grand boys, and once in a while they make me go fishing, and I know nothing about it. So I don't
Yeah,
like
just put
putting
that in the
worms.
water.
I don't want to put a worm on a hook and, so I just do the plastic thing. Well, they're like, Grandpa, no, none of the fish here are going to eat this. I'm like, how do you guys know? And they know the kind of fish they're looking for and what they eat, just like we need to know our ideal client and
Exactly.
what really draws them to our website, to our brick and mortar, to our social media posts. So
Great analogy.
I love that piece of being able to really understand your ideal client there.
Yeah,
So,
super
um,
important.
yeah, and I'm just curious, like for growth-minded business owners, when they're trying to boost profits, what are some like roadblocks that come in? What are some things that they run into? Because it's not like you can just walk into your business one day and go, that's it, we're raising profit. You can change your price list if that's what you have and
Well, that could be
incorporate
part
that.
of it.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but I'm just curious, what are some
Oftentimes
roadblocks that you see these guys and girls
not
have?
taking the time, I think number one to review what you're doing. I time block every Friday afternoon. Granted, it's Friday afternoon at 3 to 5. That's my
Yep,
time that I take a look back at, okay, where did I go? What did I do? What worked? What didn't work? Right. And I think that's a huge roadblock. They don't take the
sure.
time to do that, to
Okay.
look at the KPIs, to look at the activity. Was I able to get things done? Right. Those kind of things. So when we started, we talked about not adding more to your plate, right? These things, when done well, aren't going to add more to your plate. They're actually going to free up your time because
Yeah,
you're being more efficient and effective in your
sure,
business, and you're able to automate some of these processes and things like that free up your time so you can focus on the things that only you can do as a business owner.
sure.
But yeah, I think that's one of the biggest roadblocks is that they just keep going rather than taking a step back and going, all right. So what did
Yeah,
we do? Where did we go? What worked?
yeah,
What didn't work? Those kind of questions and reviews so you can tactically shift because, using a sailboat analogy, they never sail straight. They go left and then they go right and then they go
right.
left and then they go
Yep,
right and then they get to the end of the point, right? We
yep.
have to do the same in our business.
Wow. Well, and I think this is where, and I don't care who you use, a coach, a neighbor, a friend, whatever, this is where, again, somebody coming alongside you can be so helpful for two
Exactly.
reasons. Number one, you just said it's going to take, you got to take the time. So somebody has to kind of throttle you back and slow you down. And then the number two thing you said was you got to now, how do you pivot? There's plenty of people that have never pivoted in their
Mm.
life and they don't know how to do it. And they're just like, that's why they think I'm just going to keep going and riding this horse until, it dies. And it's just crazy to me that we, kind of keep at bay coaches, consultants, people like you, people like me that want to just help as just an outside influence. Hey, have you thought of this? Have you tried that? Do you get that resistance much that people are like, I got this, I can do this on my own? Or are they at the point of, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, Marcia, help me when their hands are up in the air?
Yeah, I get both, right? I think my style is to give them a little bit and they start to like the way I think and they're like, "Yeah, oh, I like that. Oh, I want more of that." That's my methodology. But yeah,
Yeah,
I bump into the people all the time that are like, I got this." But in today's environment, business environment, it is so important for us to continuously innovate our processes, our company, our products to
yeah,
match where the business economy is going. And AI is a perfect example. I mean, some use it, some have adopted it, some just kind of play with it. Um, if you're not going to involve artificial intelligence in your business, you will be left behind because
yeah,
it is enabling us to improve processes, improve our knowledge and our database. It allows us to really be able to do the things that used to take a long time. So, and why I say this innovation is so incredibly important is that if you're not doing it, I promise you, your competition is. And
yeah,
again, you will be left behind. So
yeah,
that little incremental change you do to your company by just investing in how can I make this better? It could be as simple as saying, Jill, you're in sales or you're in a service delivery or something. Jill, I want you to take Friday afternoon from 3 to 4 and I'm going to let you out at 4 that day. I want you to take that hour and I want you to look at one of your processes and I want you to make it better. I
wow,
want you to either improve the outcome to the client. I want you to improve the process
mm,
internally. I want you to find a gap that we can save some money, that we can do something better. And now it doesn't lie on your shoulders, but then you
sure,
get the company doing it with
yeah,
you. And
wow,
then because you gave it to Jill at 4 on a or 3 on a Friday and she gets to get out at 4, she's excited to do it.
sure, wow,
So
cool,
little things like that can actually make that huge
sure.
shift, right? And have you
Yeah.
land in LA versus San Diego.
Yeah, wow, that's awesome. Well, everyone's wanting to know your 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Friday afternoon meeting. Are there cocktails involved in this, or
You
is it
know,
just,
I was laughing because
or is
sometimes
that none
I
of my
go get my
business?
nails done, or sometimes, I may end up, doing some other things. But it is really important. I do not take clients, right? Who's working? What client wants to come in at 3 o'clock on a Friday, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
that becomes my time that I get to look at my business. And really, I have a checklist I go through. And I'm like,
Okay.
okay, what did I do this week? Did I do all the things I was supposed to do? Because I chase shiny objects sometimes and get derailed, right? And what can I do better? What
Yeah.
initiative do I want to implement into my business? So it just depends what week it is, what part of the year it is that I'm actually
Sure.
focusing on. But that allows me time to go, hey, maybe I need to balance my books, or maybe I need to redesign a lead magnet, or maybe I need to update an email that I want to send out regularly. This
Sure.
allows me that time and space to work on my business instead of in
Wow,
it.
that's great. Well, just for the sake of the whole world listening, she did not answer my question. She skated around it, which is fine. I know what the answer is now, so that's awesome. But I got two
Yeah,
questions
sometimes
and I'm
there
gonna
are
let you.
cocktails.
What?
Sometimes there
Zero?
are cocktails a
Okay,
little closer to the
sometimes.
five
Good.
o'clock.
That's good. I just want to make sure. Okay. So two questions and I'm gonna let you go.
Yeah.
Number one, what would your tip of the day be for somebody listening? Maybe it's something that we covered, maybe it's something that we haven't yet, but what would your tip that somebody could walk away with and implement right away today?
Yeah. Just to keep it as simple as possible that every single listener will do this and should do this is really take that 3 to 5 on Friday afternoon. Take that 3 to 5 on Friday afternoon. Focus on your business and look at something, look at what you did, what you didn't do, what's working, what's not working, and what little thing can you implement into your business that will increase revenue or drive growth so that you'll have that great company that you can sell sometime in the future and recoup some of your costs, your blood,
Wow.
sweat, tears, nights, weekends, a
Right?
lot of savings.
Laying out on the beach and this, that's like everyone
Sure.
thinks that's what we do. So
Sure. And
yeah.
on the
Wow.
fourth weekend, on the fourth Friday, maybe that's the day you go play golf or you go to the beach or
Sure.
you go have some sort of rebuilding of your yourself, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not all work. You got to have a little play and sometimes we need to refuel ourselves. And
Sure.
so it could be your board meeting that you go have a nice dinner, right?
Wow, that's awesome. So yeah, so again, focus on your business on a regular basis. I think
Absolutely.
that's so well hopefully it's well received that we don't work just in our business, but we work on our business because it's super easy to get stuck finding that next customer, finding that next team member, finding that next building, finding that next new, market, whatever it is, you get so dialed into doing that, which is some people love it. I love it. It's
Blinders.
just, but we got to be able to focus on our business and ourselves as well. So,
Exactly.
very well said. Thank you. For people that want to connect with you, Marcia, that something today that you spoke about really resonated with them. They're anxious to ask you a question. They want to connect with you on social media. What's the best way for people to find you and connect with you?
Well, I'm all over social media on my name, Marcia Riner. And it's Riner, but that's in the podcast notes. But the best thing, I'm a giver. Like I said, I always like to give some value to people, and if they like it, they're more apt to come ask for more. So one of the things that I've created is a GPT that will help you look at your growth map, right? What's one thing that you can do in your company right now that's going to have an immediate impact, right? And maybe what's the 90-day plan on that, right? That you can actually do it.
Sure.
So
Okay.
I would encourage you, it's for free. If you go to profitbooster.biz, B-I-Z, then you can go get a free growth map. I'm not going to hound you, call you, sales call you, whatever. I'm just going to continue to provide value to you after that. But yeah, go check it out. There's lots of resources in my space that you can gain access to, whether it's books or podcasts or newsletters or whatever. But get in there, start poking around, troll me a little bit, find something that you like, and I've got tons of resources for you.
Cool. Well, profitbooster.biz BIZ. That's a
Mhm.
great spot to start. And
Yeah.
again, if you have questions, reach out to Marcia there. And I always tell people at the end that, there was something that really resonated with you listening today. And our hope is that you don't just jump into your next activity, but you really sit with that for a minute. Maybe it's the Friday afternoon thing. Maybe it's, a small change that can be a massive result at the end. Maybe it's something about, cash flow. Maybe it's something about the Profit Booster framework. Maybe it's just going to profitbooster.biz and starting there. But,
Yeah.
rather than jump into your next activity, just really sit with this because
Yeah.
you will come away way better if you implement something that you heard today rather
Yes.
than just jump into the next piece. So if your business does not grow, it's not my fault. It's not Marcia's fault because she gave you some great advice, some great stuff to do, and a place to start and find some great valuable information. So Marcia, thank you so much for hanging out with us, and push that warm Vegas air over to the Midwest here because it's only in the 40s today. It's too cold for me. So I think it's time to head to San Diego for a while. So thank
I
you
agree
so
with
much for,
that.
yes, thank you so much for hanging out with us. And I can't wait to keep learning from you.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate everything that you're doing as a fellow podcast host. I mean, this is super valuable, and I love the concept of just take some time with it and then do some action. So I love it. Thank you.